Hi guys, happy Thursday. Coach Abby back at it again with another trainer tip. We're continuing in our mobility series, moving up the body. Last week we talked about our ankle mobility, so next up we're going to talk about hip mobility. Okay, so before we begin, a couple things to know about the hip. One, it's a really large focal point for most of the movement that we go through, whether it's boot camp or just daily activities like walking to and from our car in the parking lot. The hip is responsible for a couple of movements. It is responsible for flexion, it's responsible for extension of our leg, it's responsible for abduction and adduction or adduction, so bringing that hip in and out, and then it's also responsible for internal and external rotation, okay? The muscles that are making up this hip or supporting this hip are gonna be our glute maximus, our glute medius, our piriformis, and all of those are located in our butt. Our hamstring on the back of our thigh, our adductors on our inner thigh, abductors on the outer thigh, as well as our tensor fascia, also on the outer thigh. And then our quads are also going to be an accessory muscle to help with that hip joint as well. So to first start with mobility, we'll follow up with some strength exercises, but first mobility exercise is going to be heels up, toes up. So before you do this, you can start by checking this mobility by placing those hands overhead and just lowering to see how far you can get, okay? I am pretty mobile myself before the exercise, so it is hard to tell, but for some of you guys that may not have the backside leg mobility, this is really gonna help open up. So what you wanna do is, because it's heels up or toes up, you're gonna get something to assist in elevating those heels off the ground. So right now I'm using two 5-pound dumbbells. You can use something, a book, a PVC pipe, just something that's gonna get those heels elevated. From here, nice and tall, I'm going to push those hips back, work going down and up. I'm gonna do this a couple times here. Really opening up those backside muscles. I'm gonna go 2 more times. Good. So that was heels up. On the flip side, we've got toes up. So now I have elevated my toes on the 5-pound dumbbells. And I'm gonna do the same thing here. You can still feel it on the back side of my leg here. Couple more. So from here, I can go ahead and I can check that mobility. I can already feel some more space in my legs. I can go down. And again, I was already a pretty mobile person beforehand, but I can tell now that my whole hand is on the ground. I've got relaxed arms here, and I've got a little more space on the back side of my legs. From here, you can go ahead and you can grab those toes here, and we can go down and then back up. Creating a little more space here, down into that squat, and back up. From the front, again, I'm gonna start grabbing those feet, shoulder width, going down, can stay here a little, and back up. One more, going down, and back up. So that's our first mobility exercise. Number 2, we've got 90-90. This is something that we do oftentimes in class, okay? Couple ways we can do this. We can do this statically. So I'm gonna set up my left foot in front to start at a 90-degree angle here. And my right foot or leg is going to be at a 90-degree angle outside of my hip here. So 90 degrees in both knees, got a 90-degree angle here from my hip. What I can do here is I can go ahead and take this pressure forward, dropping my center of gravity, finding some space on the outside of this hip. can also go up, and I can also lean back here as well. Now I'm working the front side of this hip. You want to hold each for about 30 seconds, and then you can switch. So I'm going to put my right leg 90 degrees in front, left leg 90 degrees behind. I'm going to start first going forward. Got a couple sticky spots here. And again, then pushing back. So that is the static version of those 90-90s. Another version that we can do is a little more dynamic. I'm gonna put my feet just outside of my hips here. I'm gonna go thumbs up, all right? And I'm just gonna rotate and drop those knees one at a time. Same thing here, drop those knees. If you need a little less resistance, you can always go down for those hands behind. I do want to think about keeping my chest nice and high. And if you want an extra boost here, we can drop and then we can pull up, squeezing through on that back side. So again, my thumbs are high. Elevating as my final movement. Next up, while I'm sitting here, we're gonna do a bear sit. So I'm gonna sit, same position that we were just in, really hips or feet right outside of our hips. I'm gonna take my hands, grabbing those ankles. From here, I don't wanna be hunched over. I wanna sit nice and tall with my chest. My spine is nice and neutral. And as I push my chest forward, I'm pulling those ankles back towards the wall behind me here. Couple deep breaths. Here's the view from the side. Hips are wide, hands on ankles. I'm not hunched. I'm gonna straighten that back. Chest up, pulling those ankles back. Next exercise can be done with some stability help, whether it's a PVC pipe or the wall. I'm gonna use a PVC pipe so that I'm facing you. But what we're gonna do here is we're gonna work on some standing cars. So my core is gonna be already activated. I'm going to keep my left leg completely straight. My right leg comes straight up. My toe here is at a neutral, pointed forward, so it's not down, it's not flexed up, okay? It's neutral. From this position, I'm going to rotate out. From here, my foot comes up, my knee stays. And as I get to this point, I'm now coming back and around, okay? I'll go to the other side here. Lifting up to 90, toe is neutral, right leg is locked out. I'm gonna go open. As I get to this position as far as I can go, my hip or my heel is gonna come back, knee stays, then I'm gonna go back with my hip, in and around. You can also reverse it. So I'm gonna start here, left leg straight, I'm gonna bend that leg here, toe is neutral in the back. I'm gonna extend, I'm gonna rotate out, drop that heel, and bring it back in front. That whole time my core is contracted and I'm nice and stable on my bottom leg, staying nice and straight. All right, next up, we're gonna talk about strengthening the muscles surrounding that hip joint. This is gonna help with our stability, it's gonna help with our mobility, and it's also gonna allow us to continue strengthening the rest of our body as well, because we know, again, that hip is gonna be a really big focal point for a lot of moving parts in our workout or our daily life. So the first thing we can do, I'm gonna put this band on my feet here. This is a banded march, so core is nice and tight. I'm not gonna be arching my back, sticking my chest out. Okay, I'm gonna tuck that tailbone from here. I'm just marching, bringing that foot up, keeping my toe neutral. I wanna try not to rock as much as possible. Nice and slow. And you'll notice even at the bottom, I still have tension in this band. So this is a banded march. Another exercise we can do with the band are monster walks. So one of the options we have here is lateral. All right, and there's a couple places you can put the band. You can put it on your ankle, you can put it around the top of your knees, or you can double band it and put one on your ankle and your knees, okay? So this is our lateral monster walk. You can just tap it side to side as well, okay? We can also go forward and backwards. You'll notice even as I'm coming forward, I've still got tension created in this band. You can also do reverse touches with no movement as well, all right? Next progression, we're gonna take it down to the floor. We've got our clamshell complex. So I should have left my band on. Band can go around my knees. This can also be done with no band if you're just starting out with these hip exercises. So from here, I'm gonna lie on the floor. I'm gonna bring my knees up, feet back. Okay, from here, my feet are gonna stay together and my knees are going to open. So this is the first exercise of our complex here. All right. This is working on that external and internal rotation of our hips. Second exercise here, I can keep my knees together and now I'm gonna rotate my foot. Again, those knees are staying together. If I wanted to, I could put the band around my ankles. A little more resistance. The second part of this complex, you can keep the band here. We're gonna now separate our knees and we're going to drop our foot into our other foot here. So keeping tension, trying as best as I can not to move my knee up and down. And then the last one here, we can stay knees apart, and now we're rotating that foot up. Might be a little bit of a smaller movement, but you will definitely feel the burn. So that's our clamshell complex. Next up, we've got 7-way hips. So this is just another way you can lie on the floor and work those hips with very little equipment. This is gonna burn even without equipment. So here, we're gonna make sure that that foot is pointed, dorsiflexed here. Couple things we can do this banded or unbanded. Okay, I have no band right now and I'm gonna go up and down here, somewhere between 8 and 12 reps. My next move, I'm gonna come forward, keeping that foot, again, dorsiflexed here, 8 to 10 reps. My next move is now gonna be backwards. You can place this hand here to make sure that you're working just your hip, not your core. My fourth move is going to be forward and back. So I'm making a big semicircle. Can already feel the burn. Next up, I'm gonna think about circles. So I'm gonna go clockwise, 8 to 10, 8 to 12 reps. I'm gonna go counterclockwise. And last one, I'm going to bicycle. So just like you would if you were riding a bike, I do want to try and keep some space between my legs here. And that would be exercise 7. So doing that on both sides, it's gonna really fire up those muscles in the hip. All right, guys, this last exercise here, we are gonna get into our quadruped position. Extend that leg out to the side here, lift, and then we are going to do the alphabet with our leg. You can do lowercase, you can do uppercase. You're just gonna work on rotating, flexing, all of those movements within that hip. Try to stay as stable as possible as you work from your core. All right, guys, that's it for hip mobility. Good luck with some of these exercises. You're gonna feel that burn. We will be back at it next week for some more mobility, so we will see you then.